when I was in elementary school, which here in the United States of America, and more specifically where I attended in the city of Shoreline, King County, Washington State, United States of America, Planet Earth, the original Shoreline public school system. Our elementary school was kindergarten through 6th grade, so 7 years. And my school, Sunset Elementary School, had an enrollment of approximately 75 students per year. So approximately, what, 525 students, plus faculty and staff and stuff. So on any given day, you might have 550, or let's say 520 to 600 people kind of on campus. But if we're not, if everybody was in attendance, you know, it might be closer to 550 or 600 people. And we had a television broadcast system called Kids News, or Kids News. And it was run by a teaching duo, so sometimes there were split classes, be it by grade or by teachers, so like 2 teachers would teach 1 class. And it was Ms. Fredrickson, or Mrs. Fredrickson, and Ms. or Mrs. Hubble. And they were in charge, and essentially when we reached a certain grade in school, it was, if you were in their class, you got to participate in Kids News, or you could I think you could volunteer if you weren't in their class. And when I was in 5th grade, there was a 5th grade, 6th grade split, and they were my teachers, and so we got to do Kids News, since I was in their class. And I could have volunteered otherwise, but I was in their class and that kind of thing. And I was like, it would have been fun to do anyway. And so I was like, okay, there we go. I already know the teachers in essence, because they're my teachers. And so it was a year-long thing, so for the full school year, and it was weekly, and it would be, there was script writing, there were anchors, there were guest appearances, there was the behind the scenes, the cameramen and women, the audio board and transitions. So I worked on the soundboard and transitions. They were behind the scene. And then the teachers were there, and we had our own room. There was a broadcast room, right? It wasn't like how I filmed these YouTube videos, right? There was a studio, a professional studio, where we went to make these. And it was, I think it was weekly or every other week, but I think it was weekly. And I was behind the scenes, but I actually got to appear on Kids News one time. I was not an anchor, or I wasn't a segment. So there were like the anchors that sat in one place. When we were filming this, there were 2 filming spots. There were the anchors over here, like if I'm at the soundboard, the anchors were over here, and then the segment hosts were over here. So segment hosts, like sports, right? Like, and the person in charge of sports would or the segment would, you know, rotate kind of thing. But then sometimes those people could have guests. And I was a guest of Dana Walker, who was my friend, her dad was a geologist. And I appeared once, and it was a really weird experience because I've mentioned before I had reading problems and failed a reading test in 2nd grade, so I would have been approximately 6 or 7 years old. And I failed and had to have special attention for that. But there was a bit of, you know, we started elementary school together, and, you know, and as a kindergartner, everybody is in speech class for they can't pronounce like every letter, right? That's called, at least on the West Coast, English class. And we learned the alphabet, and we learned to read and write and pronounce the alphabet. So we focused on speech literacy and both reading and writing. And so there was a little, when we grow up learning that together in classroom dynamic, trust is built in that was one that I got made of a little bit because I had a speech impediment with my R's, which later I actually had to get, not English class where everybody struggles with every letter, but like more individualized. It was still a group speech therapy, not speech class, speech therapy. I had to step away from class, right? It wasn't, and then make up that work kind of thing. And so there was a little bit of, because there was a trust component there. And so since I really struggled with reading, and I was in 5th grade, 2002, 2003 would have been 5th grade for me. I was a little bit of, I would have been approximately, depending on where it was in the year, approximately 9 years old-ish. 9, 10 years old. 10 years old? 9, 10 years old. And so it was a bit of, the problem I had was it was scripted, right? And I had problems reading, and I was like worst in class at reading out loud. And so for me, it was like, I was a very energetic kid and had a bunch of energy, and I just got on screen, like I got on screen, I was at the desk with my segment host, my friend, and it was like, I was very serious. And I remember, and then we were all kind of like, you're so different on camera. And partially it was just like, I'm not used to this. Partially it was just me, it wasn't staged right, it was me looking at the script being like, just finish the script. And so there was so much of my attention went into just reading it or executing the script. I guess did I read it? We memorized the line. We went through it before, right? There's rehearsals before, and there's the rehearsal and then the final, you know, that kind of stuff. So it was a very real production. And so then we went through that, and I was a little bit different in part because I'd struggled with reading, and I just remember after, like, it'd been taped, so right, we did it, and it was filmed, it was taped, kind of edited together to the final broadcast there, and like, I just remember being like, we were like, one, I was different, right? Two, I just finished, right? So there was like a huge relief for me. And then it was broadcast to the whole school during our Kids News broadcast time slot, which was a closed network broadcast, and there were televisions in each room. So it was very cool, very different than like I watch YouTube videos and like I watch them on my computer. This was, we were all in classrooms or offices and watching the TV, and I was on the TV. Okay, it was pretty cool. It was also like, I was happy. My takeaway there was I was happy that I was not a regular on screen. I liked being behind the scenes, which is part of like thinking of the history of this YouTube channel. So that's a bit all my first experience, my first television experience. It predated YouTube. It was something that came up. I took a web design class in 2005 in middle school, and we talked about YouTube back then, and it was 2005, 2006. And so YouTube was either debuted or we knew of it in advance and that kind of stuff. And it was approximately there. And we'd watched it. We were on like the very earlier like we watched it kind of thing. And one of the things that my classmates was in this web design class, and there were like approximately 30 people. I was one of two girls. And they were like, it'd be cool if you made a channel, some of my classmates, because you have the television, even though it's like kid news, it still counts as television. It's still a broadcast format. It still has like the closed network stuff. There's still scripts. There's an actual broadcaster. Like I went through that. They're like, it'd be cool once a platform like social media, like YouTube debuts, there's a bunch of people who might make their debut on YouTube before they do on television. It would be cool to have somebody who has done television before YouTube, but in close proximity, right? 2002, 2003, that's not that far in advance of YouTube, versus someone who later, like is born or makes a debut, kind of, so to speak, public debut on television or YouTube after 2005, they have to make a choice, right? They either chose television or they chose YouTube, kind of thing. And so they're like, you're in a good position. They're speaking to me of YouTube wasn't available yet, so you made do with what was available to you. Tanis. Right? My name is Tanis Coralee Leonhardi, kind of thing. And so that was kind of cool to hear, and has been a bit interesting, and has actually factored into how I've made my YouTube channel. I was getting to this, and I'm to this. It's fun being on screen, but it's taken a whole lot of growth to get here. I wasn't that kid that wanted the anchor spot. I wasn't that kid that wanted the segment spot. I was the kid that wanted to understand kind of like the behind the scenes and how it worked and do that. And then I had my one time on television, you know, on screen. And we did a bunch of video filming growing up, and my parents filmed like races, some of my swim races and stuff. So I wasn't like foreign to being on screen. However, my sister was like, was she anchor or something? Like she was like the on screen from day one kind of person. And I was very much not to that. I enjoyed it and I enjoy it now. However, it has taken growth for me to get there. And then I guess one other YouTube, there was kind of a, she's younger than me, but less than a year younger than me, Sabrina Pasterski. I've mentioned her a number of times. I'll do a mention in the video description. Her channel is PhysicaGirl. And she was actually one of the first YouTube channels. It wasn't actually music. It wasn't like news agencies. She was one of the first YouTube channels to percolate my social sphere when it was made. And that was, she made it in, what was it, October 2006. And the channel name is PhysicaGirl, and I'll put the channel handle in the video description. At least as of filming that, I intend to do that. Today is Wednesday, 11 October 2023, filming this in community of Innisarden, city of Shoreline, King County, Washington State, United States of America. Planet Earth, the original. Not out there on the space station, you know, kind of thing. Yeah, the kind of thing. So yeah, it's a bit about that, and also kind of we talked about it, 2005, 2006, and then somebody, you know, I was in high school at that point when she made the channel, but it was still like, we saw one of us do it, because we were talking about like, who's gonna make the channel? You know, is anybody gonna ever make a channel? Like, is YouTube gonna be around if I eventually do getting around to making a YouTube channel? Is it gonna survive? Kind of thing. And so she was the first where it was like, she was, you know, within a year of our age, approximately, at least some of us. And so it was like, oh, somebody did it, you know, so it was kind of cool. She was kind of YouTube, like, she's close enough to us, kind of, she's like one of us kind of thing. So that's a little bit of, it's cool that I've done science and she's done science stuff, so that's kind of fun. But it was kind of, her entering my life was more of a YouTube thing, actually. Kind of, yeah. And it's her presence online, I guess. I have not met her. But yeah. So there's a little bit of about my first television experience, a little of the details, and then contextualization in relevance to the history and growth of this YouTube channel, Tanis Leonhardi. Happy day. In time of viewing, whenever you're viewing it, and happy place of viewing it wherever you are viewing this from.